anyway, I appreciate everybody coming today. I'm going to pause and take a few minutes because this is my first opportunity to actually engage the Veterans Information Support Network, which is hosting this today, our employee resource group, VISN, and put in a shameless plug for the ERG, and of course ask folks that might be interested in joining the ERG if you're not currently a member. Always love to have more membership in our group. And also want to highlight Larry Thompson, Angie Bynum, are our two new co-chairs of the VISN ERG, and we are so thrilled to have their leadership in our group. And so we've gotten a lot of activities and ideas from these two new folks that are just really reinvigorating this employee resource group. So thank you for your leadership and for all that you've done, Larry and Angie, to pull this together. And so, again, my first opportunity to address the group as the executive sponsor, which I've been now for a little while, actually. And I think we had some technical difficulties using different email groups and people weren't getting messages. I don't know what all was happening with the technology, but we've got some experts now that are helping us through that. So hopefully people are getting the messages that are coming out to the VISN team. And then following this, we have a bit of a social here off the deck of the cafeteria. So we're going to have a little cookout as well. So hopefully everyone that's here can join us. Anybody online that's in the area, more than welcome to join us as well. I'd love to have you over there. And who's grilling? Is that Larry? Larry's doing the grilling. So I hear he makes the most amazing hamburgers and hot dogs ever. So you guys got to come out for that. But looking forward to just having a little bit of social time with some of the VISN team. It's a very big group, actually, here at the center. I don't know that we've really nailed down the exact number, but I think it's in the hundreds. But it's a large group of veterans out here, and they're really here to help, and they want to spread the word about the importance of hiring veterans and what the value of that is to our hiring managers and other things. So we have shared that kind of information in the past, and we want to continue to do those things. So I don't want to take up too much time here, but again, just welcome everyone. Just appreciate Terry Nienaber, and he's got a group here that's going to come and give us a special topic today about the Purple Heart group and all the great work they're doing for our veterans. And we did realize recently that it's also one of the official charities on the Combined Federal Campaign, which we're in the middle of our CFC campaign as well. So just a great tie-in today. If you're interested in this particular charity, you have the opportunity to give there formally as part of that federal CFC activity that's going on right now. So please consider that and think about doing that as well. So with that, anything else I've forgotten to say that I need to say? All right, wonderful. Well, I look forward to meeting folks personally at the cookout, and I'll hand it over to Terry, sir, if you kick this off and tell us about this great program. Thank you.
So as it says, we're primarily going to be talking here today about a program called the Purple Heart Project that was started by Rob Cosman. For anybody who is an avid woodworking geek that likes to do YouTubes, he's a YouTube sensation. He puts out a completely fantastic line of hand tools. And when I'm talking about woodworking, I'm really talking about, for today's purposes, it's mostly, they call it the silent, dustless woodworking, which is the old-fashioned hand tools where you're chiseling, you're cutting with hand saws, you're using planes. If you're doing it right, the wood is coming off in shavings, not dust. And so it's a therapeutic sort of environment. You're really kind of becoming one with how the wood wants to work as opposed to working against it. And so that's where there's kind of been this healing process through woodworking. I'll give you a background for me. I get asked a lot, how did I get into woodworking? Well, I kind of relate to this topic because when I was about 9 years old, I lost an older brother. 14-year-old died in a drowning accident. And on the farm, the two boys in the family were going to be the, heirs to the farm and the hired labor for the next, decade. We had a pretty rough life at the time in terms of, we weren't really far ahead in the economics and things. And we'd had some other trauma in the family over the years, but that just kind of sent a really dark cloud over the family. My dad was very vacant for a while. He was in a dark place, but he liked to make things. He was a creative mind. he went out and we had a table saw for general utility, he bought a band saw and then a router. And so he started to learn woodworking. And so it became that therapeutic lightning rod for us. He tolerated me kind of on his coattail and learning how to do stuff. And before you knew it, I was kind of sucked into it too. And back then, we didn't have YouTube. We didn't have the resources that you have. We didn't really even have access to the nice catalogs and things, to learn about it. So Sears Craftsman was pretty much our resource tool. Circling all the tools and everything there. So as I grew up and moved to DC and got into engineering, the woodworking sort of aspect is the only thing that sort of still anchors me to my childhood, environment. And so I didn't really realize until probably I got introduced to this concept of woodworking as therapy until we started helping out this project we're going to be talking about. And so it's been very powerful to me, and I really resonated with it. So I brought with me a few counterparts. Not up here is Chris. Chris Zuchristian is a retired Marine, and he's my vice president, and I blame him for my position on the board right now as president. He's going to be taking over as president next year, most likely. There's an election, but he's pretty much the shoo-in. So Chris has been the driving force behind all of this. Jeff O'Connor is a avid woodworker as well, and that's his current job. He owns his own woodworking company as well as other ventures. Jeff is actually someone who went through the program that we're going to be talking about and learned woodworking from Rob Cosman, or at least went through his training program. And I'll let him tell you a little bit more about his military background and things, but he was in EOD ordinance and again retired Navy. And I thought we were going to get Matthew Catanese here, but he was not able to join us today. But we built a bench for Matt. And I also brought Aaron Zelazinski with us today. Aaron is, we call him the COO of getting stuff done, maybe not always stuff. He is basically our go-to for everything when we need the extra hand or just a driving force behind things. So these are my counterparts in the Guild, and the Guild is really pretty much just a club. I say just a club, wonderful folks, wonderful talents, but we get together twice a month. One time formally and one time just, we call it the Benchtop Talks. We get together and just talk about whatever we're working on, our challenges. We share what we've learned, what we think somebody else maybe has experienced or hasn't experienced, and give each other recommendations on how we should do it better. And then once a month we also get together and we'll have a program where somebody will formally come in with a presentation and talk about something. Well, one such program was actually the Purple Heart Bench Brigade, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But we also have done other community projects, like we heard that there was a group trying to build chimney swift nesting habitats, basically fake chimneys in a park to give chimney swifts some place to hang out while they were migrating and or nesting. So we helped a park put that together down, Paradise Park down in Portsmouth. We've done everything from marriage counseling crosses to, like for marriage counseling for troubled couples. A group came in and asked if they could have their little iconic kind of thing. I guess they pass, it's kind of like you can't speak unless you have the marker in front of you, to control that. But that was an important part of their messaging, and they couldn't find anybody to affordably help them create these crosses, so we created a challenge. We had everybody go out and make crosses. And we burned their little logo into it. So that's the kind of stuff that really brings us together. So we enjoy that. So that kind of brings us to the next segue of we like to do community service. And it's interesting because as a social club, that's not part of our inherent charter, but we've found that it really helps the group have a focus to come in around. It makes it a lot more interesting because otherwise people would just go on YouTube and see whatever they wanted to see. But when you see the person and have a physical connection with the person, again, therapeutic and more engaging, more exciting. So one of the things I do as president is I monitor incoming messages from our website. And I believe we got a message from somebody in the Purple Heart Project saying, hey, we have this program, we have veterans coming out of a class, and when they get out, if they don't have a good workbench, we find that they don't use their skills. So can we look for people local to where the veterans are from to build them a workbench, provide the workbench to them so that they can continue their learning adventure. And so Chris, as the vice president, took this on and really took hold of it and got us organized. And before we knew it, we were organizing to build workbenches 2 or 3 at a time to provide to graduates from this scholarship program. So I've got a little presentation from Rob Cosman himself. It's right off of his website. And his deputy or partner in crime, Luther Sheely. And he describes it a lot better than I do, so I'm gonna give you a break from my voice and let them tell you about Purple Heart Project.
Hi, welcome to our shop. I'm Rob Cosman.
And I'm retired Colonel Luther Sheely.
We run a program where we serve combat wounded veterans in something called the Purple Heart Project, also known as PHP.
Now, the mission of PHP is to introduce mentally or physically combat wounded warriors who are still suffering from the negative effects of combat to the joy and peace that can be found through the therapy of hand tool woodworking.
Now, we're not doctors. We have no expertise in treating those types of people, but what we do have expertise in is woodworking and teaching others how to do it. This is traditional hand tool woodworking, so think about how a piece of furniture might have been built a couple hundred years ago. Those are the skills that we're imparting for these combat wounded individuals, and the results we see as they get into this are amazing. When we take one of them and teach them how to do something like cutting a dovetail, which is all handwork, it literally takes them to a different space, a place of peace and comfort and joy.
So I like the way you say it, no dust,
No danger, no noise.
So this really is focused hand tool woodworking. And so, if they feel like they're going into a bad place or need some time, this gives you somewhere to focus your mind.
I have a friend that actually labeled it quiet woodworking, and that's truly what it is. You want me to go through what we do?
Sure.
It's Monday, and it's a long day. We run this class for 6 days, Monday through Saturday. We're in the shop from about 8:15 in the morning until 11 o'clock at night. Monday is all on sharpening. These are all hand skills. We're not using jigs, planes, chisels, saws. Tuesday we learn to cut dovetails. Wednesday we learn to use planes so we can process a rough board and make it flat, smooth, and square on all 6 surfaces. Thursday we start working on a project. We also learn mortise and tenon, more dovetails on Friday, and on Saturday another version of a mortise and tenon, and finish the project. When you're done, you take home enough skills and tools that you could literally build a small piece of furniture in a room as small as a spare bedroom.
So the way the program works is combat wounded warriors, they fill out an application, and we give 36 scholarships. We pay for everything. Bring the wounded warriors who are selected up here to Rob's workshop in Grand Bay, Canada, and they participate in Rob's Train the Hand workshop.
Yeah, it's something that you can help. There's 3 ways that you can help us. The most important is to help us find the people who really need this. They tend to isolate themselves, and usually they only find out about it through a close relative or friend. So spread the word, please. Second, this is an expensive proposition, and if you want to help us out, in fact, we finance this primarily through the sale of our own tools and from individuals who just feel the need and want to contribute. And third, in every class there are 6 civilian spots and 6 veteran spots. We need those 6 civilians to be the type that are really interested in this, get along well with other people, and you actually become an integral part in the healing process that takes place. And it's all done by accident. Appreciate your support. The results we see are absolutely phenomenal. To be part of it is an experience that you will remember the rest of your life. Thanks for helping.
Now, if I can figure out how to get out of this, we'll be in good shape. So you can see it's a powerful story. It's really brought, I think, a lot back to our guild. You know, to give you a background, in about 2000, they began their training, and it was in about 2016 that I understand that who they call Jesse, former Marine, went through the program and sort of highlighted the benefits of the program, and got it sort of kicked off as an official charter. And then by 2022, they were having graduates come out, and that's when they started to really get into the soliciting for workbenches. And Jeff might be able to correct me on this, but this was what I was able to sort of piece together. And in early 2023 is when they reached out to our woodworking guild, and that's when we started to form our team, you know, and fill some of the need for that. And I think I got this out of order. So, Jeff, do you want to go ahead and talk more about your experience on the, so go ahead. I guess I didn't have a chart specifically for that, but.
That's the perfect slide.
All right. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. My name is Jeff O'Connor. Raise this just a little bit. There we go. Perfect. Not that you're short enough.
Yep.
We were talking to a few people earlier when we were getting set up. How many people are veterans out here? Oh, awesome. Perfect. So I started my career in the Navy a little bit weird. When I was originally a police officer in Chicago. And in 1993, I started on the job there, and 9/11 happened. And at the time, I was on a warrant unit, and I worked nights, and I didn't even know 9/11 had occurred. I was sleeping, you know, when I got back, and got called into work because the towers were hit, and they wanted to secure Chicago. So our unit got called in to secure the Sears Tower area, and I'll never forget the feeling I had, because my tasking from our commander was, if you see a plane heading for the tower, radio it up. And I couldn't help but laugh to myself, because I'm standing at the foot of the tower, and I picture looking straight up, you know, a 2,000-foot tower. By the time you see a plane, it's in the building. I wouldn't even have my radio out in time, you know. So I sat there and I looked at it, and my entire time there, I began thinking to myself, there's got to be more I can do, you know, for my country than standing out here. And I had a really deep need to go after the people that did that to our country. And so I enlisted. I ended up leaving the police department after, it was about 9 years I was there. And at the time when I was married to my wife, it was a little bit crazy, because here I am making pretty good money as a 9-year cop in Chicago with court time. We were sitting pretty well for, you know, a guy with no, you know, high school education. And I said, hey, what do you think about me just dumping it and becoming an E3 in the Navy, you know? But she said, hey, I understand you have this need to do something for your country, and you need to go do it. So I did all my research, and I had some friends in the bomb squad for Chicago, and I always found it a very intriguing job. I always thought it was pretty cool that these guys were able to go do that, work on these devices and that. So I found the perfect job for me, which was Navy EOD. And Navy EOD is very unique, as all branches have EOD. Navy EOD is unique because we bring a dive capability. We dive both mixed gas and scuba, and we also parachute. So we do static line and free fall parachuting as well. So we bring a little bit different delivery package. So I always tell people, when they ask what EOD is, I said, picture, you know, a bomb squad that jumps and dives. That's pretty much what I did. But the funny part was I was already too old to go into the program, because I got hired at the police department when I was 22. By the time I was ready, you know, 9/11 happened, I was 31 years old. I'm 54 now. And so the recruiter guy said, well, let me go talk to the dive motivators and see if they'll even take you. And they graciously said, if you don't, you know, crash your test miserably, you know, you come in, but you better put out and pass. So a lot of pressure was on, but I was able to make it through the training and went through the pipeline, and I spent the next 21 years in Navy EOD. So I retired 2 years ago, but what brought me to the Purple Heart Project was probably around 2017. I began having a lot of changes in my body, both physiologically and mentally. And a lot of you guys are veterans in the crowd, and a lot of you are extremely smart scientists too. So the idea of how blast overpressure affects the soft tissues of your body is terrible, you know, and the way it was explained to me when I was getting my treatment done was your brain is like a bowl, like Jell-O in a bowl, and when that just rips through your body, it's just wreaking havoc on it, which can cause a lot of problems. A lot of those problems I didn't even know I had, and as I started to feel my body changing over a couple years, I realized what a big part of what I was experiencing was PTSD, and I didn't. We're a good crowd in here, so I can tell you. I thought PTSD was a crock of shit. You know, and everybody in my platoon thought that. Everybody in our command thought that, because we all thought people just want to get out of deploying. At that time, we were heavy in Afghanistan, heavy in Iraq. Oh, you still want to go do your deed, you know, for your country. And then it happened to me, and I realized, wow, okay, there's something here. This is real. So that was a huge part of my life at that moment where I kind of realized something had to happen, but at the time it was very difficult for me because of the stigma of that in the military. You can't go to your command because they're going to think you're either trying to get out of a deployment, you're weak, you're a coward, or you're just, you know, some whiny guy, you know, and that's, at least that was what we thought. So no one approached the commands at that time. I'm sure a lot of people out here can relate to that. And at home, I wasn't communicating with my wife for the same reason. I was supposed to be that strong supporter of the family. How can I tell her that I'm broken inside and I'm crying at night for no reason, you know, and all those things. So that all brought me, as I was going through all this, I ended up transferring to command. I'm sure you guys are all familiar with it, but it's our Navy's Tier 1 command that I went to. And while I was there, the people I worked with, who I'd known for many, many years, actually had an intervention with me. And they pulled me aside and they said, you need to get help. And it was through their friendship that forced me to look in the mirror and understand what was really happening to me as a person. And so I was sent to the NICO. Is anybody familiar with NICO? So NICO is a place called the National Intrepid Center of Excellence. And they are a traumatic brain injury specialist right across the street from Walter Reed Hospital in Bethesda. So I went there for a 4-week program, or 4-week inpatient program to work on the brain injuries that had occurred while I was on active duty. Well, I was still active duty at the time. But while I was there, I realized how the extent of my injuries really played a role in a lot of what was happening to me. I didn't realize how bad my brain had been injured over the years, and they had a really cool machine where the scientists in the room will love this, but they take a scan of your brain, but they can slice it very, very thin, almost like pages of a book, and they can peel it back, and they can show you all the brain bleeds, all the lesions in your brain, everything that went on over the years. It's fascinating to look at and how deep it goes in your brain. So I went through that, and that started to explain to me a lot of the cognitive issues that I had, because I was having terrible time balancing. I was falling over a lot. I was always getting vertigo. I was getting dizzy all the time. My memory was terrible. My temper was through the roof. Just a lot of things were just I see some nodding heads. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So while I was there, there's a team of doctors that work with you. There's a neurologist, a psychiatrist, a psychologist, physical therapist, all that good stuff. And I was talking to the psychologist one day, and she said, well, what makes you happy? And if you think about that right now, it seems like one of those questions that you could easily just, well, I like to do this or whatever. At that moment when I sat there, I couldn't think of anything. And I had this blank look on my face, and I felt like an idiot because nothing came to my mind. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't think of anything right now that makes me happy. And she said, well, what used to make you happy? And I said, well, I used to like to do woodworking. I spent a lot of years doing that. She said, do you still have any of your woodworking equipment? I said, well, I've got an old table saw in my shop, but with, deploying all the time, that thing had a pile of crap on it, and it was, a big thing of rust on it and pushed in the corner of the shop. So she said, I want you to go home this weekend and do something with this saw, whatever it is, just go home and do something with it. So I went home for the weekend, and I spent probably 6 hours with navel gel. You guys know what that is, that pink stuff? Just getting all this rust off my saw. And all these hours passed by, and I realized, holy cow, like I've been in here and just loving it, and went back the next Monday, because we were there for 4 weeks, and I told her, I said, you're a genius. And she's like, I know, that's what I do for a living, But through the conversations with her, she said, so how did that affect you? I said, well, I loved it. And she said, this is what I want you to do. She said, there's a program called the Purple Heart Project that is run by Rob Cosman. And I had no idea who Rob was. You talk about YouTube. I've been woodworking for a long time, but I never went on YouTube. So I had no idea who the guy was. She said, he runs a program where he does exactly what you need to be doing in your life. And she said, you need to apply to this course. So I did. I applied to it. And I would say 6 months later, I was in Canada. And Rob, he is probably the most humble man and most giving man I've ever met in my entire life. There's not a bad bone in his body, And the problem I have is being from Chicago, having been a cop, I'm one of those guys that doesn't trust anybody until I'm very, very close to him. And so I always thought, well, I shouldn't say always, when I first met Rob, I wondered what his angle was. I'm thinking, this guy's way too nice. He's got, something's up. But I've known him now since 2018, and he's just a fantastic man. He's a very, very giving man. Never served in the military, but brought me to the course. And to tell you a little bit about the course itself, it is all, like Terry said, it's all hand tool woodworking. So I had done all machine woodworking in my life, and I never found it very relaxing, very therapeutic. It was really loud, which is part of the reason I stopped doing it over the years, because it didn't soothe me at all. It was more, I kind of did it for a living for a while. And but going to his course, I remember the first thing we do is we get the tools, and they bring these tools out, and I got to tell you, as a person who's not used to receiving gifts from people, it's very awkward, because you're getting a stack of tools that are donated by people's donations as well as the companies that manufacture the tools. So they spend an hour handing these tools out to the vets, and it's extremely humbling. It's an extremely humbling moment, and you feel like, I don't deserve any of this stuff, The next step we do there at the course is to learn how to sharpen these tools and prepare these tools, because you're never going to use them if they're not sharp. And does anybody have a hand plane at home? Any woodworkers? You know what I'm talking about. If you have that hand, if doesn't have a good blade, it's not adjusted, it's not prepped, it's on the shelf. It's just a beautiful ornament when people come in, right? So the first thing we do is we learn to sharpen that tool. And what changed everything for me was that morning when we were learning how to sharpen the tool, he brings up everybody, and you take his hand plane, which has a sharp blade and it's adjusted. You take his hand plane and you plane it across, at the time we had what was called Port Orford cedar, which is extremely aromatic wood. It's beautiful. It smells incredible. So I went up there and I pushed this hand plane across the wood, and the feeling I got through my entire body was like, whoa, just feeling the blade effortlessly cut through the wood and get that cool shaving out, and the sound it made as it cut through, the smell that came up, everything. I was like, man, this is heaven. And at that moment, I realized that is something that's going to work for me in my life. And that concept of distractive therapy has been looked at and actually pushed aside by the military a lot over the years. And NICO was one of the groups that first started that. But there was no woodworking at the NICO when you go there. They have music. You can play the drums, which I really was terrible at when I did that. There was writing. I had a SEAL buddy up there with me who was doing a lot of writing. That was very good for him. There was art where you had to paint these masks. So a lot of cool stuff, a lot of areas where it's kind of beyond what the military looks at. It's kind of foo-foo-y, but it's great. And that's where the woodworking piece fits in as distractive therapy. So we're up there in Canada for 6 days, And Rob's not kidding. We're there till 11 o'clock at night. It's like a boot camp for woodworkers. And you learn so much during that time, because it's Rob himself who's the master of this stuff, just at everybody's station, walking around, helping you out. And it puts in your mind that there is something that you can do beyond the drugs, beyond the therapies, beyond all the other stuff that maybe you don't want to have to deal with, where you can self-medicate with this. And that's really what it is. It's self-medicating when things get tough. Because I go in there, I can have a stressful day, and a lot of times, you know, we all have those moments where the demons come back. You know, I'm not demon-free. They just kind of hover down here most of the days now. But when those demons come out, I'm in the shop. I go in the shop, and I put some music on. I like Irish music, so I put that on. I put my little candle on. It's got barnwood scent, but it doesn't smell like barnwood. I don't know what it is, but and then I start planing. I take out the wood. I start working with. Maybe I'll do a dovetail or something. But every single time, it levels me out, and that's what this program is about. It's about giving people the empowerment to be able to do that for yourself. Because I don't know how many guys you know out here, all the veterans, or even non-veterans, that know somebody that killed himself from the service. I've had 4 friends in 5 years commit suicide, all EOD guys, and I don't know why. No one knows why. You know, it's just, there's a big step between depression and putting a gun to your head. There's that step in the middle that, who knows, you know. But if I can be part of that, and if I can help people that need that touch in their life through a program like this, then I'm all about it. Because I know what it did for me internally. I know what it did for my marriage. I know what it did. My children were afraid of me. When they went to the NICO and got interviewed by the psychologist, I never knew it. They left, and the psychologist said, "Did you know your children were scared to death of you?" And I started crying right there, bawling my eyes out. Who wants that? You know, their kids to be scared of you. But that's where I was at in my life. And I am not in that place anymore in my life. And it doesn't have to do with medication. It's not a psychologist. It's this guy. This guy changed everything for me. And I tell him every time I talk to him about the impact he had on my life. And I'm not the only one. I've sent, I think, 4 EOD guys I know to the program as well. So that's what today's all about, too, is to get that word out to people that if you are suffering, or if you know someone that's suffering or someone you can help, do it. Reach out and do it, because I'm telling you, it will change your life. You know, guys don't think it can, but distractive therapy, man, is very, very powerful if you let it in, you know. So I think that's all I have. If there's any questions.
You're going to hang on a little bit up.
Yep, yeah, absolutely, yeah. I think, is Chris up now?
So I'm going to turn it over to Chris, and he's my cleanup guy because I'm a disorganized mess, and he'll tell you about his passion. And when I say he's got passion, he was the one that took hold of this in spite of anybody else's busy day and has coordinated every single event. And so that's what I'm asking him to talk about.
Thank you. I did bring notes, so. My name is Christopher Zuchristian. How'd you go? I'm not that tall. I was in the Marine Corps for 23 years, did 4 years in reserves, and then went over, enlisted, and then did 20 years as an officer, retired as a major. I did 1 year in Iraq, and during that tour, we had some casualties, we had some issues, and most of us came back with PTSD, and still suffering. So when I heard about this program, I got really excited about it and very passionate about it, because I too have lost some friends in the last year. So it's hard, tough listening to you. Sorry. Next slide. These are yours. So let me talk to you about the bench brigade. So like I said, one of our members talked to me about it. I instantly fell in love with the the idea of this program, and I was introduced to Jeff, and Jeff came to one of our guild meetings, and he gave that same passionate speech to us, and basically everybody in the audience bought into the program. So what the bench brigade, these are yours. So what? Yeah, let's bench. Okay, so the bench. So the bench. When we talked to Rob Cosman and said that we wanted to join this team, he has a Cosman bench that he provides to us as builders to build for each of the vets. It's a plywood type with MDF, easy to build bench with a base and a top. And then each of the organizations that help can manipulate and add to that bench. Terry does all the laser etching of the individual's commands and that we add to it. So let me talk about, this is really my first slide. So we have about 20 core individuals that when we started this, that continually support this program, woodworkers. The workbench brigade began when, after Rob was doing the course for a while, if you couldn't tell by Jeff's speech, it's really a community, and they speak nonstop. They keep in touch with each other. And when Rob was talking to some of the woodworkers, they said, I got all this great training, I got all these great tools, but I really don't have a good workbench. And the workbench, because at home. So what Rob did is said, well, we need to fix that. And so he contacted, put out a notice requesting volunteers, and Chief Master Sergeant Jack Lane volunteered to lead the Bench Brigade. Bench Brigade is a network of woodworkers that Jack has put together in Canada and United States, and actually international now too. So Rob accepts any Canadian, American, or allied or partnered vets that have combat wounds going through the process. Sorry about that. Yeah, so Jack, we reached out to Jack, and Jack introduced himself, I introduced ourselves, and we said we're interested. He's based out of Texas. He had a lot of individual woodworkers out on the West Coast. He didn't have a lot of individuals out here on the East Coast. So he's really excited about us. So when we do the builds, we like to build it at our partner, which is Woodcraft, Ed Sontag's, over in Norfolk. He offers us a big classroom that you see up here, and basically what happens is I send an email out to anybody that wants to help, volunteers, and we break them up into teams, and we do the bases, have teams build the bases, people build the tops and do the trim around, so that everybody participates. We could do it, he can do one in his, I could do one in my garage, but the guild really comes together. I wanted everybody to come together and have and contribute to these workbenches. And it's been very successful. So we started building in June, I think. We knew about it in June. I think we started building in August, and we had our first ones built in December, and we delivered the two that we had. These are over the last year or so, we've built 12 different benches. We like to personalize ours. We like to put the commands off to the left, and then we have sponsors over to the right. We're very successful right now because we have some key sponsors. We have Woodcraft, Ed Sontag in Norfolk. He provides us facilities and he provides us casters. The Bench Brigade provides us the vices and the bench dogs. And then for the woodworkers, we're responsible for funding, building, and delivering. Well, so I got Knights of Columbus and Marine Corps League is supporting building these benches. So the first two benches up there on the left, Terry and I paid for the first one. Ed Sontag paid for the second one. Pretty much all the sponsors have since paid for these benches, which they go for about $500. Like I said, we do a trim, maple wrap trim around the sides, make it nice. Put the shelf in, we give them a light, and I think that's about it. But as you see some of the pictures, they have the tools that Jeff was talking about that they get donated. Delivering these is a great experience. Every single one of these individuals are so thankful for what we've done for them and building them. It's very rewarding. So there we go. We, like I said, we plan to do like 2 tables a class, which are 6 classes a year. Each table runs between, depending on if we get the wood, that lately we begin it from Worth Construction down in, it's a cabinet maker down in Norfolk, and they've been giving us our wood for cost, so it even saves more money. We do take donations. If you want to participate, we got a couple different ways you could do it. First, you can, Purple Heart Project, that's Rob Cosman's. If you want to donate to that, you can use either one of the links. And it's really easy to donate money to them. They also got the combined federal code right down there, if you wish to do it. Locally, if you want to participate and support the bench brigade, what we do, and build the, of course, we can take checks. We are putting together a Venmo, GoFundMe or something, electronic payments. It's not there yet, but it'll be on our website soon. And also, you can donate time, join Tidewater Woodworking Guild, come on down and build if you want to, or if you want to participate in the delivery. I wanted to bring one point back that Jeff brought, and I was talking to Jack Lane and Luther Shealy about participating, the vets. We want to encourage more individuals. We do not have a lot of people in the Hampton Roads area participating as in other areas, like Camp Lejeune area and that Fort Bragg area. Most of those individuals you saw were down in North Carolina. We would like to see some more up here because we know there's veterans that deserve this. And I got into a conversation with them, and we started talking about me, and I said, I don't think there are much worse off individuals that deserve their seat at there. I don't want to take it away. And he said, well, that's not for you to decide. We got a board. They read your actual application, and they'll decide. I've had one individual up there that applied 3 times, and he got it. But don't consider yourself not worthy of participating in this program. Or when you talk to other vets, please try to, encourage them to apply because they really it's a great program. And if they can't get it immediately, I'm sure down the road they will. I hear that a lot. Well, I'm not worthy. I don't want to take another person's seat, but there'll be time. So please encourage vets, especially around here, to apply for the program. Good? Okay. Thanks. Yeah.
So I'm gonna reiterate, sort of recap the ways I intended, or what I intended out of this, basically. First of all, I like to talk about what we do. I have passion just generally about it, and I will say that this is really a warm, feels good kind of program. And I do believe that the Tidewater Woodworkers Guild is kind of fun to be a part of just as a community. Like I said, you can go on YouTube and learn all this stuff, or you can learn it from people. I prefer the people in some aspects and YouTube in others. And just in case you just say, well, I've wanted to become a woodworker but never get around to it, I have a box of round tuits back there. So take one, and then you can't use that excuse anymore. So that's our little fun business card that I do. If you have any other questions, give me a yell anytime. I didn't say it, but I'm up in the engineering directorate and, love to advocate for good causes in general. So give me a yell when you need something. I also want to give a shout out. Tim Roach is here. And Tim is one of our best supporters. He did a lot of our jigs for trying to produce these things. And he's been one of our mentors in how to produce things in a nice, accurate method. I graciously kept him out of this because he's been really busy with a project that he's trying to help with. But I didn't want to downplay his role in this either. I also want to shout out Angie for giving me this opportunity to come to y'all, and the whole board for letting us come in. All right, we'll be around.
Question for you.
Loretta.
How much funding do you get from the Purple Heart program? I know they give you. The question was, how much funding do you get from the Purple Heart program, and how much do you have to fund locally, to build the benches? Just so we know where your gap is. I mean, I know they provide some kind of guidance and maybe some materials. I just don't know.
They have. The Purple Heart Project doesn't provide us any funding. So the bench brigade basically assigns the woodworkers, and the woodworkers are responsible for all funding, building, and delivery. The bench brigade, which is separate from the Purple Heart Project, will provide us the vise and the bench dogs. So everything else is on us. Purple Heart Project, I think their annual budget is like $370,000, and they would like to get to the point to where they're funding all this, but they're just not there yet. So it's all on the bench brigade and the individual volunteers. So right now we are getting about $1,500 up to maybe $2,000 from our sponsors. The Marine Corps League will, when I go approach those guys, I do it for corpsmen and Marines, and most of all those guys are down in North Carolina of our Army. So Knights of Columbus provides us a good amount of funds. We get funds from, we said in the Guild, if it ever come to that, we don't have enough funds, that we can't get funds from a partner, that we would fund it out of our own Guild budget, if we will. We were able to, like I said, besides the table that he and I paid for, we were able to so far get funding for all of them except for one, which the Guild participated in and provided funds. But Knights of Columbus, Marine Corps League, and Ed Sontag at Woodcraft paid for two of them. Right now we're pretty good. We were expecting that we were going to have 4 more benches this year, September and October, but we didn't get a vet in this area. We didn't really have a gap this year. So we're planning on 12 benches a year, 2 for each class, and that's what we're trying to raise for next year.
So it costs us about $500 a bench to build for our costs.
And you don't use electric tools? I mean, you use your...
No, we actually use electric tools.
No, we use electric tools.
Okay, makes it a little faster, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
the process is pretty straightforward. We spend a day just using electronic tools, power tools, to cut all the pieces of parts. And then the next couple of days, we do use power tools most of the time because it's just faster. And we do the assembly, cutting pieces, put them together, and assembling. Once we get to like the finish work, then we'll use the hand tools and that type of thing. But for the most part, it's power tools, and that's what's great about doing over at Woodcraft is he's got all the tools there. He's got a huge classroom that we get to use, and brings everybody in with pretty much have the support.
And so for
Thank you.
clarification, when we list all this, I meant to say this earlier, The CFC goes directly to the Rob Cosman Fund to pay for the classes and the tools.
Yeah.
And their overhead of administration. So if you look them up, the Purple Heart Project, you're going to get the Rob Cosman's branch off. It's actually separate. They have lots of need. They'd like to do more, but so I have no problem sending people to that, and they are 501c3. If you donate to us, we're just a club. We're not a tax deductible donation or anything. It's just if you care about the tax donation, I'd suggest go to Rob Cosman. And if you just want to get involved, give us a yell and we can find the best way for you. It's only next year's tuition dues for us is $30 a head. It's not like we're a big tax on anybody, and you get on the emails and get to come to Woodcraft a couple times a month and just see what other people are doing.
If I could add to that just real quick, for the funding piece, last year they were able to fully fund 5 of the 6 classes. So it was just under $300,000. Each class is about $50,000 for all the plane tickets, the housing, the tools, the course itself. So it's quite a bit of money, and they're trying to find some corporate sponsorships that can help so they can add more classes than just the 6. But right now, last year they ran out of money at the 5th one, so Rob covered the cost for the 6th class. But it's always a struggle, I think, right now, trying to do it. This is just the CFC is new for Purple Heart Project. Their 501c3 is brand new as well. So before that, they were just a Canadian charity. And the Canadians aren't like the Americans when it comes to their patriotism, from what Rob said. So he said now that they're a 501c3, things are really picking up. So
Yeah, I'm a little sketchier on the details. What do you have, Angela? Is there anybody else? So my, shooting for half an hour and filling an hour is typical for me. So, did you have anything else, Loretta?
I think so.
Thank y'all so much. I really appreciate y'all coming out. I just want to do one more shout out for the VISN group. If y'all want to become a member and you're not already a member, or you think you're a member but you're not getting any notifications, then please send Larry. I was going to say his Outlook name is Lawrence Thompson, and I'm Angela Bynum. So just send us an email. We'll add you to the Teams channel, which will also add you to the Outlook email group. So we'll get you all squared away. All right, thanks, y'all. See you outside for the picnic.